Hi, I'm Scott Wolf, and I want to talk to you about the Disneyland Band and the special person who gave me this album. This record was given to me by Sonny Anderson, who was one of the earliest members of the Disneyland Band. Sonny had a fascinating history with Disney. While this was the second record of the Disneyland Band, Sonny was hired because of this first one. The Disneyland Band was about to record this 1956 record, Walt Disney's Disneyland Band concert, and they wanted to add another percussionist for the album, so Sonny was hired for that session. The leader of the Disneyland Band on this first album was Vesey Walker. Now, the band was such a big part of Disneyland that it was even featured on this 1960 Disneyland souvenir guide. Inside here is a photo of Vesey letting one of the park's younger guests lead the band. The band performed all over Disneyland. They played while riding the Mad Tea Party in Fantasyland, and they played aboard the Carousel, and they would also perform on the Mark Twain, such as on the front of this album. Now, they're also in this 1955 guidebook. This is an original souvenir from Disneyland's opening year, and they were sold with these great envelopes to encourage people to send them to family and friends. Isn't that great artwork? Inside the book, here they are giving a concert at the original bandstand. That location eventually became Carnation Plaza Gardens and then Fantasy Fair. They also got this great full-page photo back here. You know, Walt Disney loved the idea of having a marching band for his small-town Main Street in Disneyland, and he hired Vesey for 2 weeks to assemble and conduct the first Disneyland Band. Of course, Walt only hired the best, and Vesey was a renowned marching band leader who first conducted a band in World War I at an Army bandmaster school, and he went on to assemble and direct dozens of bands and win numerous awards. Vesey's 2-week job at Disneyland turned into 15 years. Now here's some footage my father shot of the band in 1958. Vesey gave his conductor's baton to a young guest, and the band would follow along, no matter how fast or slow the child would move the baton. There's the Opera House in the background, but there was no great moments with Mr. Lincoln yet. The Disneyland Band was so popular that after Disneyland was open for a year, they recorded this album. Now, it was recorded live in Disneyland as opposed to in a studio. Vesey was so impressed with Sonny Anderson's performance that he hired him that day to be a drummer in the band. Here's some audio from a conversation that I had with Sonny just a few years before he passed away.
I had never been here. Anyway, came out and did the thing, and they offered me a job.
So you came here just for the record?
Yeah, and they offered me the job, and I thought, I don't think I want that. I don't know anything about it. But when I was here, I walked around, looked in and go in the men's room and everything, and I couldn't believe every single place was so clean. So I took the job, and then I've been with him ever since.
Did you get to see Walt often when he was here?
Not often. I mean, I'd see him, but I would say maybe a dozen times that I had lunch or dinner with him, not just with me, but with several other guys, you know, and he was neat to be with.
Eventually, Sonny went from being a drummer in the band to becoming the talent booker for both Disneyland and Walt Disney World. When Epcot opened and they wanted authentic entertainment for each country represented in the World Showcase, Sonny traveled to every one of those countries to find the groups and entertainers. Now for this album, which is from 1969, the new full-time director of the Disneyland Band was Jim Christensen, as it shows here on the back. Now, Jim was also staff music arranger for Disney, and he arranged a couple of the songs on this album. But a lot of these songs were arranged by Sonny, which is another reason that it's just so special that Sonny gave this to me. When Vesey conducted the Disneyland Band, the songs were largely the traditional turn of the 20th century marching band selections, with occasional Disney songs like on this first 1956 album. But on this album, it's mostly Disney tunes and also songs from Broadway musicals of the time that sounded like they fit into the time period. Disney has always given a lot of thought on just how much they had to stay true to a certain time period and when to take creative license to appeal to a wider audience. Sonny had a hand in that change. While he was still in the band, he started writing some arrangements for the band, and he was the first to arrange marching band arrangements for some of those Broadway musicals. And Vesey just loved them, as did his son Tommy Walker, who was the director of entertainment. Eventually, Sonny was given a full-time position arranging and writing songs, not just for the Disneyland Band, but anything that Disney needed, whether it was for other groups, special events, or even commercials. This record also talks about some of the other musical groups from Disneyland, which are comprised of members of the Disneyland Band. The band members would change costumes and break up into smaller groups, such as the Saxophone Quartet, the Disneyland Polka Band, and the Straw Hatters. In 1974, my dear friend Stan Freese took over as the leader of the Disneyland Band. He was the first full-time leader of the Walt Disney World Band before coming to California. Here's a postcard of Stan leading the band next to Mickey in Disneyland. This postcard was given to me by longtime Disney photographer Gary Kruger, and he's the one who took this picture. Here's a clip from a conversation I had with Stan about his move from Disney World to Disneyland.
I was the director of the Disney World Band. After a year and a half or so, I had decided that Central Florida wasn't a place I wanted to spend the rest of my life. There was no real culture going on. There weren't concerts. I was used to having other things to do when work was over. Everybody worked at Disney World back then in that little town of Orlando and Kissimmee and up, so you couldn't get away from it. You know, and then the other thing was it was just the heat and the bugs and the humidity, and we had to be outdoors. You know, it's an outdoor job. It's a marching band, a concert band, and you're out in that, and it rained every day at 3 o'clock, and then the steam would just come up, you know. I came from Minnesota, and just the fact that so many people were quitting, which then put the burden on me to replace them. So I called the director of the entertainment division in California, Bob Yanni, and I said, Bob, thanks for this job. I love it dearly, but I'm going to be leaving. The next day, he calls me back and says, Stan, would you consider the company moving you to California and you taking over the Disneyland Band, which at the time, that Disneyland Band and some of the small groups were in need of a freshening. And I'd really done a great job with that band down there. I said, yeah, of course, that would be wonderful. And the rest is history.
As the Disneyland band leader, Stan brought more pizzazz to the group, leading the band, just as he had done in Disney World, in jazz, swing, polkas, even modern-day rock and roll songs. And Glenn Miller's In the Mood was a guest favorite. Now these weren't all while marching down Main Street, but since they would perform in various locations throughout the day, Stan would do those songs where they were appropriate. Some of the members of the band had been there since opening day and were very skeptical of the new young band leader and his choices of songs. But when they saw the audience's reactions, they soon warmed up to Stan and admitted that he was making the right choices. In 1976, Stan had a surprise when Vesey Walker, the original band leader, was visiting Disneyland to celebrate his 83rd birthday. Stan proudly turned over his baton to the man who started it all for the band, and he had him conduct Happy Birthday for what would be Vesey's final performance leading the historic Disneyland Band. Now this book is from the 1980 official album of Disneyland and Walt Disney World. I loved this. And it wasn't a record, it was a modern audio cassette tape. It featured music from some of the park's favorite attractions, but it wouldn't be complete without a song from the Disneyland Band, and they performed the Mickey Mouse Club March. Here's a picture of Stan with the Disneyland Band. The funny thing is that although credited as the Disneyland Band, the song was originally recorded by the Walt Disney World Band for a record they released in 1972. But coincidentally, the band was conducted by Stan because he was leading the Disney World Band when they made that album before he made the move to California. Although Stan took his job seriously, he also never minded having a little fun. Now one Halloween, he got some masks and had the band hide them in their jackets until it was time to step off. Without permission, Stan led the band down Main Street wearing those Halloween masks. One of his supervisors was furious and yelling at him. He could have gotten fired for that, but the park guests loved it. Back then, Disneyland really didn't do anything for Halloween, so that was really special. In fact, Stan soon got a promotion. Sonny Anderson personally chose Stan to take over for him as the Disneyland talent booker, since Sonny's duties as talent booker included both Disneyland and the whole Walt Disney World Resort, and booking all the talent in Disney World was taking up so much of his time. Stan remained such a great friend, and I'm so glad I got to know Sonny before he passed away. I want to share one other thing with you. In 2018, I was in Tokyo Disneyland, and their Tokyo Disneyland Band was about to play, so I decided to switch my camera to video and start recording, but what they played was a great surprise to me. It was the Disney medley from this 1969 album. It was the exact arrangement. I couldn't believe it. In fact, I even got a little emotional. When Walt Disney opened Disneyland, just hoping his new park would be a success, he thought a marching band was essential for the authenticity of his turn of the 20th century Main Street. More than 60 years later, stemming from Walt's vision, that tradition continues to bring joy quite literally around the world. Enjoy this clip.